Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. It's your boy, Illeagle 86, and I am back, as always, with my good friends, Techtic.
Hi.
And Nerdbomber.
Hello. I don't know why I did that so weird. I'm so sorry.
It's Valentine. How was your Valentine's Day?
It was good.
Are you willing to say on the air whether or not you guys kissed?
We didn't.
We necked.
You guys just rub your necks together?
Yeah, basically. It's kind of like, have you ever seen like giraffes when they greet each other? That's essentially what we did.
We have high school rules in this house, though. It's like also got to maintain arm's length. It's
right.
Good.
Happy for you guys. I Valentine's Day did not go out. Stayed home, and I have to say it was awesome. Made a home cooked meal. Did you at least
home cooked meal.
Home cooked meal. Made some I should say my wife made some lasagna. She wanted to try her family's recipe. It was excellent. Shout out to my wife, who I don't think regularly listens to the show. Pop some red wine,
but some vino.
Had a little white wine followed by espresso martinis.
Ooh.
Which shout out to espresso martinis.
I've had your espresso martinis. They're quite good.
I'm very proud of thank you so much for bringing that up on the air. I'm very proud of the espresso martini that I make. If you're ever in need of an espresso martini, you should make one yourself, but know that I would make a maybe better one. That's not a brag. That's just do
you want to share the ingredients or you're not prepared?
Yeah, I'll share. I mean, if I'm just copying from someone else, there is a coffee liqueur, the name of which I can't remember right now, and they have an espresso martini recipe. It's like the coffee liqueur is called like Black something. Mr. Black. That's what it's called. And they just have a recipe you can just look up online. And I will tell you, I believe the secret ingredient, if there is a secret ingredient, is simple syrup. Simple syrup gives it a little bit of sweetness. Obviously, otherwise it's just the coffee liqueur, that Mr. Black coffee liqueur, vodka, freshly brewed espresso, and you got to make sure you shake it really hard with a lot of ice. That's what gives you that froth. And here's a fun fact about espresso martinis. You always need to put 3 beans at the top. There's like some sort of special significance for the 3 beans. It's like one is for luck, one is for fortune, and one is for health or something like that. I'm not going to look that up.
Is an espresso martini a post-dinner drink, or would you say it could be done at brunch?
I mean, I think you could do it at a brunch, but I would also say it's a very desserty feeling liqueur.
Correct.
Like a cocktail.
I would characterize it as an after-dinner drink. I think you nailed it with that. I mean, if you had it at a brunch, I don't think anyone would bat an eye. I think you'd be okay. I just don't know if that's commonly done. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Hope you had a great and relaxing and safe day with your loved one or with yourself, because you should love yourself as well. Today we got a big daddy, huge single topic episode today. We are dedicating the entirety of this episode to espresso martinis. No, I'm just kidding. The entirety of this episode is going to be dedicated to the state of play, PlayStation State of Play, that was last week, February 12th. So I believe that actually means it was either the day the last episode released or the day before. Math is hard. You get the idea. We weren't able to cover it last week. We're covering it this week. And let me tell you, there was a lot going on. It was about a 45-minute showcase. They crammed a lot into it. I will say, and I messaged these guys after I had watched the whole showcase. I sat down and watched the entire thing end to end, which I sometimes don't do with these. I watch them in pieces, but this one I carved out 45 minutes over the weekend, just sat down, watched the whole thing. There maybe has never been a better time to be a PlayStation owner. That's just my opinion, but watching all of the content that we got, I was uplifted as a gamer.
Can I?
Maybe that's a weird thing to say, but yeah, you can say.
Can I make a comment about this showcase before we get into any of the games?
Please.
We're back. We're fucking back, gamers.
We're so back?
Because when I tell you there was almost no online multiplayer and it was all rich, story-driven games. I
actually didn't think about that, but
I was getting tired of it. Just, hey, here's another Fortnite clone. Stop it. We are back, and I am hyped.
Another, I would say, and in the interest of that statement, like before we get into going through the games one by one, which we're wont to do on this sort of segment, like one of the overarching narratives that I got wind of, I guess, and maybe this is an incorrect take from me, wouldn't be the first time, won't be the last that's happened on this show, but I feel like a couple of games, and I'll call them out as we go by them. I saw some fairly direct, hey, we want to cut in on Nintendo's deal here. there were a couple games in particular, like I said, I'll try and call them out as we go. There were a couple of games here that felt very, very Nintendo-y. There were a bunch that didn't, but I do think they're making some strides in that area of like maybe trying to get a little bit younger, maybe trying to cater to genres they don't typically deal a lot in. We'll get into that later, but I have an article open in front of me from IGN, which I was about to try and say what IGN stands for. I actually don't know what it stands for.
It's
You
just
guys all know
what it
IGN.
spells. Again,
IGN. Got a big IGN article open here. You guys know IGN. They're a big deal on the internet. I'm going to go through it in order. And what I will say is that this is absolutely not the order in which the videos were revealed in the showcase. So if I'm out of step with your own internal order, I do apologize.
tell you what, I'm going to lead the show
Please.
then and go in order of
Please.
Oh,
the show.
snap.
Hell yeah.
Why don't you do that? Let's flip the script.
Because they opened up and the first thing we saw was a vast field of monsters. We got introduced to Monster Hunter Wilds right off the bat, and I even looked at Nerdbomber and I said, this is Monster Hunter Wild. I knew they have a very unique gameplay style, art style with their monsters, and this is coming at us February 28th. So me personally, not a big Monster Hunter fan. I was until I got just absolutely obliterated, and we had talked about this before the show happened. I can only tolerate dying a certain amount of times before I rage quit a game, and sometimes even a franchise. That happened to me with this, and it's mainly because Monster Hunter is designed to play with your friends, and I don't have those usually when I play video games.
Oh, that's so sad.
But this game looked really cool. If you're into the Monster Hunter games, this had a ton of monsters, and they're going to be having regular updates for new maps, new monsters, etc. So get hyped for this.
I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
I want to get hyped for this. I can never get into Monster Hunter. I don't know what it is. I think I tried one and
Those
it
are
felt
the lack
really.
of friends I was talking about.
It might have been partly that, but also felt really grindy. Like
It's super grindy.
they
looks
weren't like
grindy, yeah.
bullet
Mhm.
sponges because there's not really guns. It's more like melee attacking. But
And
they're
there's
like,
no health bar on any of the beasts.
yeah,
so
that's just
you're
not
just
for
like
me.
you're like, golly gee, I hope this is the last blow. And it's not. It never is.
Yeah, I also have never tried it. I mean, we've seen stuff about Monster Hunter Wilds before now. They did, yeah, they showed us a brand new trailer, but they also announced a free title update in the spring, which is adding some special monster, Mizutsune. I don't know a whole lot about that. I do think that Monster Hunter, the franchise, has settled into, I'm not saying they're not doing anything innovative, but they know what they are and they know the fans that they have. Like, I have heard a couple of times in the past couple of weeks, essentially like, hey, Monster Hunter, is it out already or is it coming out soon? You said February 28th?
February 28th.
I think it's what you said. That's what it is. I've had a couple people say to me in the past couple of weeks, like, hey, just so you know, like, after February 28th, I'm going to be pretty busy. Like, literally, and I'm talking about in a work environment. I've had a couple people be that way. Like, there are people who are basically
Also
cordoning off their
fantastic.
personal lives
More
for this.
people need to just be straight up in our corporate America that, hey, we're gamers and we got shit to do. Love that. Love that for you.
Yeah, this is it's a game you can sink a lot of hours into. I know that. It's a game that I think if you have familiarity with the franchise and you like what the franchise offers, you're just going to get more of that. And I think I'm not poo-pooing that. I think that's a great thing. I think, it looks like a top-notch experience, one that it doesn't sound like it's necessarily for any of us. I've never tried it. I don't really intend to, but it's a big deal. So it makes sense that they would open with it.
So then the next one they went to was Shinobi Art of Vengeance. This was a 2D side-scroller ninja fighter kind of Metroid beat-em-up game. If you're making reference to Nintendo, this is one of those ones where I can, comfortably play on a PlayStation handheld device and really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this isn't one of the ones I had earmarked for that, but I can see, why you would make that connection. It does. The IGN specifically says it's not a Metroidvania, which I don't really know where they're getting that information.
Well, that's why I
certainly
didn't call
like it was to me.
I called it a
But
beat 'em up Metroid. So like it's got that.
Well, it's like a side scroller.
Yeah, it's got that dread side scroll, but it plays more like the old arcade beat 'em ups, but also has level progression. So it's kind of an interesting hybrid. So I can see why they're saying that it's not that, but that's how it comes across. And this looks clean, cartoony animation, really quick, fast-paced combat. This looked interesting. This is something, I wouldn't pay like $60 for this game. If this is like under 10, I'm in.
I don't know if you're going to get it under 10, just because
there are a few that
I don't think anything comes out under 10 unless it's an indie game, and this one definitely is not because it's from Sega. But I mean, I will say this is not my cup of tea. We all know I'm not the side scroller player. Like, that's your guys' game. But I did like the art style. I really liked that it seemed like a mashup of like ninja / kind of like cyberpunky genres. So I'd be interested to like watch one of you guys play it, but I would not want to play it myself.
I'll let you watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's always like the traversal abilities, like seeing a player accrue different ways to move around the map. Like, to me, that screams Metroidvania. If they're saying it's not a Metroidvania, it's not a Metroidvania. But like, I think they showcased a little bit of that in the trailer, and you know, my proverbial ears perked up at that because I just, you know, I love that genre. I do think that, like you guys said, the art style looks great, the combat looks great. This could be fun. It's definitely not something I would pay $60 for. I can't imagine paying under 30 for it at launch, just because that's kind of how these things go. But I also think 30 probably isn't an unreasonable price for it. So I guess we'll see what it drops at.
For this next game, I'm going to take the reins just because, guys, this is my game. Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. Like, I wanted to jump out of my seat. I didn't. My butt remained firmly on my cushion. But like,
this is one of the Nintendo. It's attacking Nintendo games.
Okay, dude.
Which like,
so you have not been a Sonic racer, but I'm telling you,
This plays better than Mario Kart.
yes, you need to get.
I'm not
the
saying it
older
doesn't play
games
better
in
than
the
Mario
IP.
Kart.
Like, I would strongly urge you to take a look at the older games in the Sonic Racing universe, because these are literally some of my favorite kart racing games. And man, this just looks so freaking sick. They're sticking to what works really well for the franchise. They have the transforming vehicles, so they have the boats, they have the planes. There's some new maps with like big set pieces with dinosaurs and squids and stuff like that. But they also brought back, I don't know if anybody is a huge Sonic Racing fan like me, but like, there's a battleship map on one of the older ones. I can't remember if it was All Stars or Transformed, and it was so great. And they brought that back. It looks like this is an absolute day one buy it for me.
I don't know if you caught it, but in addition to the new maps and power-ups, there's also a new vehicle mode. They showed Sonic on what looked like a snowboard. And
yes, that's right.
We're going to be shredding it as well.
Illeagle, I swear to you, if you buy this day one, if you buy either the older ones, like, you are going to be so happy. You got to do it.
It's fun. It's like buy one of those games. You sit on the couch with some friends. Like, you're not there for the story. You're there to go through maps and have a good racing time.
I mean, I feel like you misunderstood me entirely. I wasn't knocking this. Like, I do think this looks great. I just, when I see it, I am inclined to think of Mario Kart. And like, granted, this is coming out on the Nintendo Switch too. It's coming out on all the platforms. It's just, it is a kart racing game. Like, Mario Kart, for all intents and purposes, has the market cornered. No matter which game is better, according to you. I don't really have a horse in this race. I'm certainly not going to day one buy this because I'm not a big kart racer. Like, I play Mario Kart, but I'm not like into it.
But your wife
Are you going to try to get in the February 21st network test?
I might.
I am not.
I might.
I am not. My wife, I don't know how this would go. It's an interesting question, actually. She hasn't spent a whole lot of time on the old PlayStation machine. Which isn't to say I couldn't buy it on the Switch, but as far as, the PS5, I don't know that's going to happen.
All right. So the next one that came on through the showcase was Digimon Story Time Stranger. So this comes out in 2025 in the springtime, and this is a vast RPG Digimon world. Also, first and foremost, shout out to Digimon because we haven't gotten like a really good game in a long time. So I'm really happy as a Digimon fan to see this come out. And like, one of the biggest things is you can ride your Digimon. You're on your bird, you're on your Garurumon.
He stole it from me. He's looking at my notes, and I literally have. You can ride Garurumon.
Look at my notes.
Guys, don't fight.
It says
don't
ride
fight,
your
guys.
mon. I just couldn't type fast enough because it was a quick short case. But yeah, this looks very expansive. A lot of opportunity. It looks almost like Digimon's response to when Pokemon went open world. That's what I'm getting, that we're going to be exposed to this. And honestly, if they don't make all the like technical blunders that Pokemon had, I'm here for it. Because once they like polished it up, it was good.
This is another one that this is one of the other ones that I was like, I hate to use the word Nintendo attacker because I doubt it's explicitly that, but like, it feels like it could scoop up a lot of
what's
Pokemon
better
players.
at this, better about this than Pokemon is it's got the vast open world with all of the mons, but it's still a turn-based game once you actually get into the combat. This didn't look like that. This looked like it was the open world of Pokemon plus real good combat. And like, that's awesome. So way to go, Digimon.
I have to say, I thought I maybe misremembered how big of Digimon fans you guys were. I thought you were going to be like creaming your jeans over this one. Like,
I mean,
I'm not a
very
Digimon
excited,
guy.
but
I
have
didn't have the cards to watch the show.
jeans and my creamer.
oh,
Jesus. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's not... JRPGs aren't my thing. Never been a Digimon fan, so like for me, it went right by me. But I was just kind of like, oh, I'm sure Nerdbomber and Techtic are going to be really excited about this one.
Do you want me to just yell hype? Hype. Is that better?
I mean, you can express your excitement the way that you want. You seem very level-headed to me right now, which is fine.
I didn't have enough
It's a good way
coffee.
to run this thing. Yeah.
All right. So then the next one we saw was Lost Soul Aside. This is sort of a hack and slash RPG world jumping game. You're jumping between dimensions and worlds, and this looked fun.
This was my first. There's too much going on.
yeah.
There were a couple of these. This was definitely my first. All right, you're doing too much. I don't even understand what's happening. I'm out.
It was
Which, like,
graphically
maybe
very
is-
stunning, but sometimes it's a little too stunning. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That may be very narrow-minded of me, a very narrow-minded take, but this was, I think, in light of the other ones you just mentioned, this was the first one where I was like, there's just too much happening here. So
The premise is kind of neat, though. Like, forming a bond with an interdimensional creature. Like, the premise is cool. I just, like you said, it might be a little bit visually too much going on for me.
All right. With that, we're going to move on to... We got kind of like two interesting announcements on the Yakuza Like a Dragon stuff.
yeah, we need to dig into this because there's. I'm gonna maybe go out of order here, but we got to talk about this Dave the Diver thing.
We can jump to Dave.
Hit us.
Look, I never played Dave the Diver. What is the Yakuza Like a Dragon? What are they doing in there? It doesn't seem right.
It's just a crossover, just like a weird crossover thing. Is this a standalone game where it's
Dave
like...
the Diver
No, I
is
think
a
it's-
standalone game, but I think this is like DLC, right?
It's DLC, Ichiban's Holiday DLC. Like, it just, are they the same studio? I don't understand the creative vision.
I
putting
kind of
the
get it. So
Like a Dragon people.
the
in there.
Yakuza franchise is inherently chaotic, and for him to be making like cameos in other games kind of tracks. I'd akin it to like Deadpool almost, just like breaking the fourth wall and just jumping between comic panes. Like, this weirdly tracks.
Well, I thought,
Yeah,
doesn't
we've-
Dave the Diver also have some other collaboration DLCs? Like, I thought they had a Bellatra one. I thought they had a collaboration with Dredge. Like, I think they just do that. I think that's just par for the course for Dave the Diver.
I think we've established on this show in the past that I do not understand the Yakuza Like a Dragon franchise because, like, yeah, jumping into like the other Yakuza Like a Dragon, like the other part of the pair here, like I'm just confused when I like it looks very visually vibrant. There's a lot going on. There's probably a lot here for people who are fans of the franchise to get excited about. It's very interesting to me. I don't know. It's not something I think I'm ever going to play, if only because I don't even understand where to enter.
It's crazy because, like, this looks like it would be a fun pirate game, but I have no interest in trying to catch up on all of the lore.
Which, by the way, the fun Pirate Like a Dragon in Hawaii game, the demo is dropping, so we're going to be able to play it pretty soon.
It's just like, yeah, I think we talked about this the last time we talked about this game, because we talked about when another trailer came out for it, like, what if they make like an amazing pirate game? Like, that's just a very interesting thought, because like if they do, the perceived barrier to entry for folks might still be too high, because they're like, what on earth is this? Like, I think that's a
the
reasonable
games being
reaction
as
to the
chaotic
franchise.
as they are, it kind of allows you to just jump in whenever. It's like, hey, this is just sidebar thing happening. Enjoy yourself.
It's just a silly, goofy time, it seems like. And
Yeah.
like, I can, to some extent, get on board with that, but I don't know if I can for how much it's going to cost. I don't know how much this one's going to cost. Is this like a $70 experience? I assume so, maybe not. But if it is, I'm definitely out.
With all the Yakuza stuff out of the way, we can get into Splitgate 2. So my notes for this one is I called it Portal COD. It's kind of a run and gun game, and you can shoot portals and jump between the points in the map and just kind of add that portal dynamic that, I mean, we've always wanted me personally, I've always wanted it in just about any game ever since I've played Portal. So for that, I'm here for this one.
I mean, I played Splitgate 1. because this is a sequel to the original. They were both free to play, but there was an original free to play shooter, Splitgate, which was basically, your COD or Halo with portals. And I thought it was actually really fun. They shut it down, I believe, in favor of working on Splitgate 2. And my reservation, and they didn't really make this super clear in this trailer, it looks great, but I think they're leaning more towards like a 4v4 hero shooter mechanic, and I just don't like that.
That's what it looked like to me. I mean, I will say I totally missed Splitgate 1. Watching this trailer, I was like, how have I not heard about this? Because I think the concept is great. I can imagine my mind completely melting while playing this game. Maybe I guess I can't decide if that's in a good way or not. But there
were times when I played the original Splitgate, there were times when I was a little overwhelmed because I thought I would find myself in a really good spot, and then somebody would open a portal behind me and just take me out. And I would not, it's hard to plan for that because you don't know where it's coming from, which makes it unique, but also fairly difficult and overwhelming sometimes. Yeah,
I would imagine there's a lot of, I guess, reversals is the term I'll use. Reversals like that, where you're like, oh, I'm in a great spot. Oh, well, I just was died. That would probably happen to me a lot. I think on paper, it's like a really, really smart concept for a game. Combining, like you said, Portal COD, just making that a thing, I think is great. I agree with your assessment in what little we saw that it looks like it's trending towards hero shooter, and I don't know if it's gonna necessarily benefit from that. But it looked cool, looked polished. It's something that I would probably play if I was in middle school and I was at a friend's house. I would have probably played this for a whole afternoon and then maybe not bought it.
I'm glad you brought up middle school, because when I was in middle school, Tony Hawk, and I know this is in your notes, Nerdbomber, so please don't call me out on it, but
he's stealing from my notes.
The kind of young buck starting off and then kind of building their career, WWE Hall of Famer was announced. And those kind of games just scratched a certain itch. And so this I thought was super, super cool. And especially in the fact that they showed this island that had a massive multiplayer online sort of area, and it allowed for a ton of customization on your character. And that's fine and dandy. But the thing that I thought was kind of cool is there was this shrine area that it looked like you can play people online, and there's potentially King of the Island type vibes, where it shows the people who's kind of leading the island, and if that's the case, that would be just absolutely badass. And challenge yourself to hold the king of the hill as long as you can. That'd be so cool if that's the thing. I really hope I'm interpreting what I saw correctly, because by gosh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, they're calling the island a social multiplayer wrestling hub, which I think is really interesting terminology. I'm back and forth on this because I think the Tony Hawk comparison is a good one. I recently went back to Tony Hawk and played the remaster, and it was incredible. I think I've always kind of struggled with sports games, and Tony Hawk included in that, where I think if I were to play a WWE game, I don't think I ever have, but if I ever did, I would have a really good time. As an kind of arcade adjacent experience, I'm sure it's really, really fun to play. This game, I think, much like other sports games I've played, I don't know if I would get anything out of the career mode. And I know that's maybe a hot take. I'm sure one of you is about to pipe up saying, I played career mode in NHL or Madden or whatever, and it was amazing. I think it's for some people. I think it's for some people though. I think some people really do appreciate that kind of longer term pace to the game. For me, it's anytime I play a Madden or an NHL or FIFA or any of those, I'm going to pick it up and play a game of it and then just put it down.
Madden or NHL are different because you're playing as the whole team. See, it's not just
no, I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to cut you off. No, because in NHL and Madden now, they've locked in modes where you can do a career mode and you don't play as the whole team. You play as your position, to the point where even in NHL, when you're not on the ice, you literally are watching the game from the bench.
But it's still a team sport.
But you do have that career mode where you start in the juniors and you work your way up. And from that aspect, when I get in the mood to play a lot of NHL instead of just playing a bunch of one-off games, I do career mode because it gives me a little bit more of a purpose to playing a bunch of 20-minute games. But they're not good. They're never good.
Yeah, I mean, and WWE is different, right? Because it's a solo sport. It's very personality driven. I understand all of that.
Yeah, as a former wrestler myself, it is just it's all on you. Spotlight's on you. Your time is now. And if you mess it up, that's it. There's no one else on the team. It's just you.
No comment.
I guess I question when a sports game adds this level of trappings around the actual experience, right? Like it's something that I always, I guess, think twice about. I'm not saying this is bad. I think this looks interesting. It's just, it's maybe like a boomer take to be like, why are sports games not just about the sports anymore? Like that, I don't want to come off that way. It's just like, for me, forever, WWE has always been like, all right, I'm going to pick this ridiculous guy and you're going to pick this ridiculous guy and we're going to hit each other really hard. And like, there's going to be a crowd.
But there's
going
like
nuts,
signature moves, and then you make your signature move based on like your personality and your backstory. It's basically.
Did you do that? Did you have a signature move?
I made my character the Hulk, basically. So.
No, I'm saying in your wrestling career.
I did. It was called a dump. And it's not like shitting myself. It's where you shoot the legs and you put them on your shoulder and you kind of pivot. That was my move.
That'd be a good move though, to just crap your pants, because they wouldn't want to mess with you. They'd be like, "Oh crap!"
But you get penalty time
for crapping your pants. We're getting too into the weeds here, but I guess you are the expert as wrestling goes. So
with that said, the next game, Borderlands 4. This just, for me, there wasn't a lot to say. It was the classic combat we love about Borderlands with a cyberpunk twist. And we're going to get this as soon as September 23rd, 2025.
I mean, they have still split screen, and it looks like they added almost some elements of like Doom gameplay, where it's a little bit more fast paced and fluid. Like there were it looked like almost like whip thingies. I don't have a better word for that, but basically like you could swing and get behind enemies, and even like dual wielding, which I don't remember them having in the past, but maybe
there
I'm wrong.
Was dual wielding.
Maybe. I don't remember. But yeah, this is just more Borderlands goodness, and I'm definitely going to play it.
Yeah, I agree. It did feel a little bit more, I guess frenetic is the way I would describe it, in the Doom sort of way, watching this footage. Borderlands always makes me sad because like everything I've heard about and my experience with it and what I've heard about it is that like it's really a game that like is okay to play by yourself, but it really shines when you play with two people. And like I can't imagine that changing about the core experience here. So like I watch this and I'm like, it looks like it's gonna be really cool. And like for me, it's probably not gonna happen because my wife ain't about that life. But yeah, I mean it looks really polished. It looks, like I said, I or like you said, I think it does look pretty Doom adjacent. And should be pretty good. How about Randy's shirt? Shout out to, if you watch the showcase, one of the Randys has a crazy shirt. Just pause on that.
I like to call them Heebs and Jeebs. That's who we saw. So now for the star of the showcase, because we have been gushing about this for quite some time now. Split Fiction, guys. This, if you haven't heard of it yet, this is a co-op game that kind of jumps between the sci-fi world and the fantasy world, because the stories you're jumping through is the brainchild of two writers, and they each have their own books, and they've been somehow sucked into their worlds, and you're just trying to escape. This game looks fantastic, and even from the trailer, I could feel emotions bubbling up. I was like, this is gonna hit.
He's like, can do no wrong.
I mean, this was for sure a story trailer, and I feel like the first trailer we got was also a story trailer in that it laid out the basic premise and what's going on. This trailer, for as little time as it had, kind of dug into the characters' emotional connection and connections to other not shown characters, members of their families, what inspired them to write the stories they wrote, things like that. Starting to, I think, more closely acquaint you with them, which I can certainly appreciate. It's going to be a game that, Hazelight at this point has a pretty strong pedigree with co-op. I'm sure the gameplay is going to be tight.
Did you play It Takes Two with your wife?
Played some of it, and one of us got frustrated and we stopped.
She wasn't about that life.
And you know what? That's fair. I think there was just one too many just falling off of cliffs.
Yeah, that's fair. That game had a lot of that.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, outside of like building the emotional connections with the characters and like getting some more information on the story, I wouldn't say this showed us anything that was unexpected, but it didn't have to, right? Like this is, I think, going to be a very big deal. March 6th, this comes out. I suspect it will be a hit.
I suspect that as well. So the next one was a space horror with aliens, and it seems that the aliens can duplicate the people on board. So this was Among Us. I'm just kidding. This was Directive 8020. You guys are all supposed to laugh at that joke because that was really funny.
Now you guys are certainly expecting me to be like, yeah, let's go. I'm all in on that. And like, don't get me wrong. I think it's going to be good. I have a lot of questions. You don't see a lot of gameplay in this trailer. Like, I want some gameplay.
But I think it's made by Supermassive Games, and they're the ones who have done like all of the Dark Pictures anthology and what is that game, Until Dawn, that they're making into a movie. I feel like it's going to be almost more like movie-esque than it is game.
Yes, it's going to be a. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine it will be much like Until Dawn, where you're kind of just like walking around learning stuff, and then occasionally something crazy will happen to you, which I think will be fine. There was a lot going on in this trailer. I don't even fully understand what the alien is. That's probably the point. I'm not supposed to know. Like you said, it seems like they could take on the appearances of the crew members. It seems like the crew members might turn on each other.
That's what I'm saying. I think they literally took Among Us and were like, we can make a game with better graphics.
I think it's drawing inspiration from a lot of sci-fi horror,
a lot of
movies, a
Dead
lot of
Space
games
stuff going on too.
Yeah, it's a fairly crowded genre, and I'm not saying it's wrong to kind of just like, give it the old mix-a-rooney and just put all of them together, but like it does feel a little bit like that. Watching this trailer, it's like, all right, you took a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's very easy to be spooky in space. Alien gave everyone the blueprint for how to do it. So with the crowdedness of the genre, I just think I need to see a little bit more from it to really, salivate over it, I guess. So food for thought. I'm sorry, I don't want to be a wet blanket. Like, I think it will be good. It is not the game I was most excited about. Hint, hint. Wink, wink.
Can I say the next game? Because I don't know about you guys, but like I don't give a crap about Five Nights at Freddy's, and I just don't care.
Freddy Fazbear should, honestly, might be a weird take. Stick to movies at this point. I think they've established their IP very well in the gaming world.
That is a weird take, I think.
And just pivot whole hog to movies. Like, I really enjoyed the Five Nights at Freddy movie, and the games are just all, jump scare. And there's like, I can't get into the lore. I've tried. It's just, yeah, I'm over it. This is the premise of this is it's the secret of the mimic. And there's this like suit this special like intro suit, I think they called it, that jumps into various like animatronics and controls them. And it's like state of the art, and you got to capture this technology and bring it back to Fazbear Industries. And like, okay, next.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing the hits, right? Like, this is another one that like, if you like Five Nights at Freddy's, you're probably gonna like this. If you don't, then you're not. And like, I think that's fine. But there was nothing here that suggests anything different than what you've already gotten from the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. For me, not really a thing. But for folks that are into it, they should be into this. I have to imagine they would be.
So one that I thought was much cooler was The Midnight Walk. This comes out May 8th, 2025. This is a purely stop-motion, handcrafted RPG. And the plot of this is you need to bring fire back to the world. And you have this little guy, that's what we're going to call him, little guy with a candle on his head. And you just got to like traverse and explore and bring fire back to the world. This looked cool. I really like the handcrafted art style. It's different than everything else. And it just seems like it could be really neat.
I really like that. I feel like we've seen like claymation stuff before. I mean, I know, oh boy, what is that game that Microsoft is putting out as well? The South of Midnight is also sort of like stop motion-y as well. But I feel like having a first person experience in claymation is very unique as like just a whole. So I'm excited for that. It's a little spookier than I usually like to go, but it seems more like weird and not scary. So I'm probably going to give it a go as long as it's not like super expensive.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, it also is going to be on PSVR 2 if that's your cup of tea.
Does anyone have PSVR 2?
I don't, but I do think that parts of what we saw could easily be tailored to that experience. So it didn't surprise me to hear that it was going to be on PSVR 2. I want to hone in on, and you were kind of just getting that at Nerdbomber a little bit. They referred, the creators who were in the showcase, they referred to it as a cozy horror game, which I think is a very interesting genre. Like it's not it's almost oxymoronic, right?
Jinx.
Yeah, like it's an interesting descriptor for a game. With that said, I kind of see what they were talking about. Like it's ooky spooky, but not in like a we're gonna jump scare you kind of way.
It's ooky spooky
like
while being chilly willy.
It's kind of like The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes, yeah. Exactly.
Absolutely.
There's an entire genre of media, like a billion Tim Burton movies and all. Like that's just that kind of cater in that. This felt like that same kind of vibe, and I think it could really work. This was one that I had written down as like for the right price, and assuming it's a fairly short experience, which I would assume it would be, but maybe I'm wrong. As like a low impact endeavor, I would potentially be interested in.
The next one is straight to you from Nintendo. Darwin's Paradox. This is an octopus adventure to escape the food processing plant. This was just a cutesy side-scroller platformer octopus 3D thing. Nothing more, nothing less.
I hate that it's like a 2D side scroller though, because you know me, like if it's an animal, it's an immediately yes, but this is just not my normal genre. And I'm probably going to get into it just because, I don't know, it's cute, but I'm not going to be happy about it.
Looks a little, definitely a little platformy, a little puzzly, very Nintendo. As you said, this is another one of the ones I was like, this is a Nintendo game. This is one of the games that I was like, this would probably play really good on the Switch, which is, I'm sure, not what they wanted me to be thinking about. They did say, or there's specific mention of the DualSense being pretty involved in Darwin's Paradox, so maybe they'll prove me wrong as far as which console would suit it best. But I was into this one. This one looks pretty cool. I like the kind of irreverent, like, he's trying to escape the processing plant, and like he's, I guess what would you say? I guess octopuses do walk. He's walking by like a classroom of people, like looking at images of how to take over the world by killing all octopi and stuff. Like it's very cartoony, but it's very fun and cute. And like, I appreciate the energy that it's bringing. All right. So just like Darwin, we're going to, do octopi slither? We're going to slither on out of here for a quick little break. We're going to wiggle. We're going to move our tentacles and just scoot on out of here for a quick break. And we'll come back to talk through more of the games at the State of Play.
We'll probably just pick some of our favorites at that point.
Yeah, I think that's a fair approach. We still have not talked about my favorite yet, so I'll be sure to highlight that one. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Before we go to the break, though, I would be remiss if I did not shout out our Patreon producers, Mr. Stephen Keller, Mr. Lloyd Weldy. Our two knights, our cabal of knights is growing. We're becoming more and more mighty. We can challenge other kingdoms. Other kingdoms out there, consider yourself on watch, on alert, on notice. Thanks very much to Stephen and Lloyd. They both support us at the knight level on our Patreon. That is the highest of our 3 levels. You can check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. Our producers get access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, as well as the occasional guest spot on the show. There is also a Squire level of support, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, and a page level of access, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment. So again, patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast is where you can get the details on all of those levels of support. You can consider giving back to the show, supporting us in what we do, bringing you that sweet, sweet content. So again, that's patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. Thanks again to our fantastic producers. We will be right back to talk more State of Play.
Hey everyone, my name is Josh and I am the host of the Still Loading podcast. On Still Loading, I talk about retro and modern video games, video game history, as well as some goofy projects such as an episode of dramatic readings of video game manuals. I've also had composers like Austin Wintory, Andrew Prallo, and Chad Sider on to talk about their upcoming projects. New episodes are released every other Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to check out the show, you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right, we are back. As Techtic mentioned, coming out of the break, we're gonna Rudy Tooty a little bit. We're gonna shake things up. We're just gonna kind of fast break a few more here. Probably not going to talk about everything, which will give you guys a chance to yell at us in the comments, which I know you guys really appreciate. For myself, I would be remiss if I did not bring up Saros. I've talked on the show before about how big a fan I was of Returnal, as punishing as it was, and in as much as I've never come remotely close to beating it, I've returned to it many, many times. This was a cinematic reveal, so we didn't really see any gameplay, but based on the fact that it's Housemarque, and based on what we saw, we can kind of infer at least a similar experience, and the creator kind of said as much. There's going to be a permanent progression system under a roguelike kind of environment. I'm all in on this. This is 2026. I have time to fill the coffer and splurge when this comes out. I'm also a big Rahul Kohli fan, so
yeah, that's
cool
what
to see him.
I think I made a note of that because, like, I forgot the director who makes all the spooky stuff on Netflix.
Mike Flanagan.
But like, yes, you're very into those, and isn't Rahul Kohli in like a lot of those? He's
in every single one of them. He was in Midnight Mass. He was in, I can't think of the name of any of the other ones. He was in Midnight Mass, the one that's based on the Turn of the Screw, and then the other one. Like he's basically one of Mike Flanagan's guys, and I think he's a great actor. And I think he's going to be really cool to see in this environment as well. So super, super excited for that one. I will swing it over to my guy, Techtic. Techtic, what really got you going?
I just want to say on Saros, I am interested to see how it does build on Returnal, because it did say it would build on that world. And then
I want it to be easier so badly. We'll see if it is. I don't know if that's Housemarque's thing, but that's the number one thing I want from it. So we'll see.
And then I have 3 that I wanted to mention. The first one, and we can rotate around, but the first one is Dreams of Another. This was like a interesting pixely dream-esque like animation.
It's so bizarre.
And you're walking around your PJ shooting things, but the whole premise is you destroy things to create things around you and discover and explore. And I thought that was, there's no like, yes, you have a gun, but there's no real combat. And I thought that was kind of interesting way to solve puzzles and drive through this mystery of this game. It's just very interesting.
Yeah, easily the most experimental game was Dreams of Another, as evidenced by the fact that I believe, I can't think of his name now, but the creator had a single name like Prince or Madonna. That to me, that's the sign that like, this is going to be a very artistic endeavor. I thought it looked super, super interesting. I don't know that I would pay a whole lot of money for it. It's like an art project, but I mean that in a positive way.
And in the same vein, sorry, I'm just going to go to the same vein of like exploring and like solving a mystery. Blueprints is you're exploring a shifting mansion to just kind of discover it. And there's a lot of, it's a puzzly, solvey game. It's a little spooky, but not really. That's not the intent. And it looked like a puzzle game. And I'm always here for those.
Yeah, I just talked about, probably it would have been a few weeks back, maybe a month or so back. I talked a lot about Lorelei and the Laser Eyes on this show. This game looked like potentially a similar experience to that. And I really, really, really loved that. So Blueprints is on my list for sure. Nerdbomber, you've been somewhat silent. Anything you want to shout out?
Metal Eden to me kind of looked a little bit like first-person shooter sci-fi Doom, but in space. Like I think you're an AI cyborg, and it just looked really fast-paced and fun. And I like a good first-person shooter, so I'm just excited to have a different take on a really fast-paced shooter to play. I don't know if this story will be any good. Like it's a single-player story campaign, so it's not going to be like a multiplayer thing at all, which I just love that. I feel like there's not enough campaign-driven single-player first-person shooters these days. And I don't know. I'm just here for it. It doesn't look super overcomplicated. Graphically, it looked pretty nice. And I like Doom things. So,
yeah, I mean, Doom really, it did a lot of pioneering. I think one of the things that it really, like a core concept it unlocked for games is this idea of like, I guess I'll call it like combat flow, like a shooter where you can kind of just get into a groove. It moves pretty fast. It's based on the character moving around pretty fast. This looks very similar to that, not necessarily identical. And like you said, taking place in a different environment, but if it can hit that note the same way that Doom did, I predict it will be pretty successful. So I thought this one looked pretty cool as well. For myself, just a final thing on Techtic, I will throw it back to you for your third. We're going to skip a bunch, but one that I kind of wanted to shout out because I love a good remaster. Days Gone is a game that I meant to play and I forgot. Like there are games that kind of happen there where like I'm just busy and it goes by and I forget about it and I never play it. And like I can appreciate, Days Gone giving me a new on-ramp to play at higher graphic fidelity and like experience what that game has to offer because, I'm certainly not expecting something like The Last of Us, but like I do have some love for the zombie genre, and I think this could potentially provide that for me. So probably going to give that a go at some point.
And the nice thing,
and I just was happy to see that.
Since you're a PlayStation guy, I know at some point Days Gone was given away as like a PS Plus game before they started this whole like library service, kind of like Game Pass. So if you have that, it's only a $10 upgrade to get the remaster for PS5. So not a bad deal.
I personally don't, but that's a good shout out to the people that do. I wish I did. So yeah, Days Gone, getting a remaster. Techtic, why don't you close us out here? Anything that you wanted to shout out in closing?
Yeah, Abiotic Factor. This one, it was like a team up, build traps, and try to outsmart your enemy. This felt like we've got this creature that's coming in on us, and we're not the hero with these big guns. We're just a bunch of engineers in a room trying to figure out what to do. That's kind of a cool concept. I don't need to be like the superhero that like I like to be the technical guy. In Mass Effect 3, whenever we played online, I was the guy just support and creating. I was always taking that engineer role. I like that role. And there's a whole game for it now. Yippee.
Nerdbomber, anything else you wanna hit quick before we close?
I mean, I guess just doing a drive-by because they gave it a big chunk of time. Mindseye, we kind of talked about it during our break a little bit. It's a new single-player story game where there's like tech in the head of soldiers that stays there. And then I don't really understand exactly what's going on, but there's they called it an action adventure game where AI and human greed come together. Could be the start of a new franchise. At times, it looked a little generic. That even like graphically, there were some times when the graphics looked incredible, and then other times where I was like, the floor around them has no texture at all, zero texture, just blank. And I don't know, it could go either way. This is one of those ones where I'll keep my eye on it. It seems like it's very early on in development, although it says summer 2025 is when it comes out, so who knows?
This
We'll
gave
see.
me Detroit Become Human vibes mixed with like Neuralink.
I, for some reason, got vague Quantum Break vibes from it.
Yeah,
I don't
I
really
can
know
see
why,
that.
but like I think there was something about it that it's not even, it's intangible, but like it gave me a similar sense to that. And I agree, Detroit Become Human was similar to that as well, which, you know, I think I just named two games that weren't really blips on a lot of people's radars. So that's going to be a wait and see thing, I think. Look, guys, there's a lot we're skating by here. There's just too much. Hell is Us, Lies of P, Tears of Annihilation, Metal Gear, Solid Delta, Snake Eater, both of the Onimusha games that were mentioned. I mean, there's a lot. So this is your chance to get angry with us. Let us know in the comments over on Blue Sky, wherever, what we missed that you want us to talk about. What did we talk about that we got right? What did we talk about that we got wrong? I am at OW, Illeagle86.bsky.social on Blue Sky. We have at OW, Nerdbomber.bsky.social and at Techtic.bsky.social. Again, that's all over on Blue Sky. We also have a main show account at OnlineWarriors.bsky.social. So hit us up over in those there parts and we can have a conversation. That brings us to What Are You Up To Wednesday? This is the part of the show where we talk about what we've been up to. So I'm going to go first because I got a stacked docket today. Football's over, which means that it's really dumb to say, but it means I have more free time on weekends. Weather hasn't broken yet, so I can't do anything outside, like house-wise. So I've been enjoying myself. Mostly playing Blasphemous, which I am really enjoying. I can't remember if Steven said on the air or off the air that it's really hard, but it's really hard. So Steven, you were right about that. It's very hard. I'm challenged. I'm adequately or maybe more than adequately challenged by it. Definitely enjoying that. Would recommend it, especially if you can get it for like the $3 that I got it for. It's well worth it. Shouting out a movie called We Live in Time. This is a movie, came out like last year in like the fall with Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. It's not a romantic comedy.
So
it is a romantic drama.
we watched this as well, and yeah, the lack of calm for a Valentine's Day weekend watch was
calm.
rough.
I will say I really enjoyed it. My wife did not love it. She did not like the ending, which we can't really talk about the ending
Because after giving
spoilers.
birth, she could have got a hysterectomy, right?
I don't know
Big
that was
spoiler,
necessarily.
but-
I don't know if that was necessarily her problem. I think her problem was just the ambiguity of the ending. There's kind of and the whole thing is time jumps. There's a lot of time non-linearities in it. That's the whole shtick of the movie. But the one at the end she thought was pretty jarring. I thought Andrew Garfield in particular was just incredible. Love him. Some would even say he's the new Jake Gyllenhaal in terms of Illegal 86's fanboying.
all right. That's pretty high praise.
Huge fan of what he was doing in that movie. That dude can just get tears entering his eyes whenever
He's hotter with glasses. I just need to say
He is hotter with glasses.
Yes, significantly hotter. We spent this is a dumb way to spend like 5 minutes after the movie, but we were like, is he like regular hot or is he like hot? And we were
he's
like,
regular
glasses hot.
regular hot,
He's
but
glasses
then he
hot.
puts the glasses on and then he's like hot.
Also, I don't want to incredible actor. He has some really, really good scenes in that movie where he's just like really going for it. I thought he was amazing. The biggest plot twist of that movie happened in the first few minutes, where like I had watched the trailer and I was like, yeah, he's a professor. Look at him. He's a professor. He's the most professorial looking guy in the world. And then like in the first minute of the movie, you find out he like works for a cereal company. And I'm like, whoa, changed the whole thing for me. But yeah, pretty good. I enjoyed that movie. The only other thing I will shout out is that I started watching The White Lotus season 3, which I'm not really going to say much about because I didn't really watch seasons 1 and 2 that much. So like I kind of don't have the right to say much about it. And also it's really early yet. I've only watched one episode, but that's what's going on with me. I will swing it over to Nerdbomber. Sorry to steal We Live in Time from you guys, but it's cool that we all watched it.
No, that's absolutely fine. Because we also watched You're Cordially Invited.
This is the sequel.
This was supposed to be more of a comedy, and this was on Amazon Prime. I believe it was a Prime original. And the premise of the movie is that Will Ferrell's daughter is getting married, and he's a single father because his
His
wife
wife
has
died
tragically
when she
died.
was a young girl.
But his daughter is getting married and wants to get married on this specific island where he had married his wife. And Reese Witherspoon, her sister, is getting married, and they also have a connection to this island. It's a very small island. They want to get married there as well. They accidentally get double booked, so they're there at the same weekend. The island can't support it, so they have to like basically split up the weekend and try to make it work. And it ends up becoming like they're going head to head, Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon's characters, because they basically get into like a little rivalry fight sort of thing. And it was fine. It was very capital F fine. Like,
I thought it was fun.
Sounds like a premise rife with com potential.
Yeah.
Putting the com back in rom-com.
there were definitely like one-liners where I giggled. And then there was a lot of Will Ferrell action that I was just like, I'm not the world's biggest Will Ferrell fan, so I was just like, this is over the top.
Is it? Well,
But
is it fair to say? I think he's losing it.
yeah,
I like him a lot. I think it's done. I think he needs to take the L.
I think so too. And then I don't want to say what the ending is, but I just don't think the ending needed to happen. I think the movie would have been completely serviceable if the ending didn't happen. And that's all I
Will
have to say
Ferrell,
about that.
like he was doing like semi-serious stuff for a while. Like he made a couple movies there where he was like getting into Sandler territory.
That worked for him.
And that would have been really good for him. And then
Yeah.
he was like, no, I'm basically going to make Old School 200 times. And like, I don't know. It's okay, but it's not as good as I think he could have taken his career. Sorry, Will. I know you're a big fan of the show, but I have to say what's on my mind.
And then the other thing that I want to shout out really quickly is on the Steam Couch Co-op sale, I bought a game called Biped. And it is a split screen. I don't even know if it's split screen. I think it's just you're on the same screen, 2-player 3D platformer where the shtick is that you basically, each stick is one of your 2 arms as you move. So there's a lot of coordination with your partner, a lot of puzzle solving and platforming where you have to time your movements correctly. And there's times when you can only be on like one leg at a time, but you can't move forward because you can't lift that stick up. It's honestly for...
It sounds like Quap. Remember Quap? It sounds like Quap.
It was...
Is that Cardi B song?
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, for $3 or whatever I picked it up for, it was well worth the money. We had a lot of fun with it. We're not done with it. But yeah, I guess there's a sequel coming out. So if you're looking for fun 2-player game, there's one there. And I'll toss it over to Techtic.
Yay.
That leaves us with you, man. You should wrap us up here.
So we played a new board game. It's a 2-player co-op board game. It's called Sky Team. Basically, you're working together to land a plane at various airports. And every time you do a turn, you're trying to like switch over all of the mechanics, drop the landing gear, and keep your velocity within a certain range so that you don't overshoot the tarmac. And it's really interesting because you each roll a set of dice, and that kind of determines what value you put on each action on the board. And you can't, the actions between you, the pilot, and the co-pilot are tied together like it's like additive, the dice value. And you can't communicate to each other. You just have to drop the dice and hope they have a dice that works with that. And what's kind of interesting is there's like an unspoken strategy that you're kind of working through with them. And it's really neat.
Yeah, because you're balancing things like your pitch and yaw and stuff like that. And it's all based on dice. So like if I put a 6 down and he puts a 1 down, we flip our plane upside down and everybody crashes. And there's also like traffic you have to contend with and like radio ahead to get rid of traffic in your airspace. It's honestly very fun. And there's a lot of other modules that you can tack on. So like we played so far the simple versions where you're just trying to, balance your pitch and your yaw and your speed and get your landing gears prepared and everything like that. But you can add things like you can have an intern, you can contend with, I think, like wind. I don't know. There's a bunch of different modules that the game comes with to make things more complicated.
Yeah, this is a game that, and I assume I did not get it for you guys because you would have said if I had. I've thought about getting this game for you guys because my brother and sister-in-law, shout out to them. I believe at one point I got it for them and they just love it, love it, love it. I've never played it myself, but it does seem really, really cool.
Honestly, for a 2-player game too, like because you can't speak to each other, I think that kind of ramps up the strategy. But like the mechanics are so simple. You're just rolling dice and it goes pretty quickly. Like the plane progresses regardless of what you do every round. So you have to finish it in like, I think it's 7 rounds before you hit like landing altitude. So it's quick. I think you can finish each round within like 30 minutes. I don't know. It was great. Great game.
Sweet.
Anything else,
Techtic,
Techtic?
anything else?
Oh, that's it.
Well, that brings us to closing time. We thank you all for joining us here on the show this week. If you liked what you heard, or if you didn't, you can head over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a review. Let us know what you thought. Hit us up on our Patreon, our Blue Sky, as mentioned previously in the episode. Wherever you can reach us, if you need to talk to us, there's a few different places. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies, you know? I mean, it would be a weird thing to tell them because it's great, but you could tell them. And have a great week. Stay safe and keep on podcasting.